Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to the live show. Welcome to the eTeknix live show, the weekly live show that isn't every week and still doesn't technically have a name. Uh, when I first started doing these live streams, it was all about let's try and think of a really cool name. You know, there's other people out there who've got their little names for their live shows. You had Awesome Hardware with Paul and Kyle. You had the WAN show with Linus. So yeah, we still kind of need a name. So there's definitely that. Some people may have even got notifications today that we are actually streaming to Twitch. We have denounced our Twitch affiliate-ness. So we are no longer a Twitch affiliate. Personal choice of ours, just because we didn't want to alienate the audience that we actually have on there. So there is that. So yeah, I guess really let's get started with the whole how is the video, how is the audio, and how is everyone doing? Just like we usually do. Want to make sure that the video is good, the audio is nice and crispy. And yeah, that you guys are all doing well on this pretty warm, I guess, Friday afternoon, getting ready for the weekend. Plenty of gaming, I'm hoping, is on the horizon. So we've got lots to talk about today. I mean, lots. And most of it kind of, I guess the main stories comes down to Intel, what's coming up with Alder Lake-S. Seems like every single week we're talking about Alder Lake-S, but every single week we have new stuff to talk about. Also, Apple iPhone 13. Don't worry, if you're an Android, let's call them fanboys. I mean, I use an iPhone, not a massive fan of Android, but I can see that there is a market for both of them. If you are one of them, don't worry. We are literally going to talk about it for a minute because there isn't even that much to talk about when it comes to Apple. The revolutionary Apple, the people who, I don't know, have the courage to do things like remove a headphone jack. This time they've had the courage to pretty much not even implement hardly any new features, yet charge you the earth for it. So we are going to talk about that as well. We're going to talk about Intel DG2. We did do a video on it the other day. So again, more Intel news, this time when it comes to graphics cards, as opposed to CPUs and chipsets and stuff like that. Also want to talk about GPU quality control. You guys may have seen the video that we put up on that as well. Just talking through the fact that our manufacturers, and I'm talking NVIDIA, I'm talking AMD, and I'm talking obviously their AIB board partners, are they kind of getting a little bit complacent? Are they getting lazy with the way that they do things so that they can try and get the products out to you as quickly as possible, which I will give them that. That is a fair enough thing, that they are actually trying to get product into people's hands. And we will talk about the fact that, you know, there was an event at the weekend with Scan where they were actually trying to get GPUs into people's hands for MSRP pricing. But there's always the trade-off of trying to rush this through. Are things going to get missed? Is quality control going to become a thing? And all that kind of stuff. So there's lots to kind of talk about there. Also, the fact that EK have brought out a CPU water block, which I'm stupidly excited for because it's 1U and it's for Threadripper. And we're also going to talk about probably the tackiest, and I mean the ugliest case I've ever seen that is branded as one color, but is very, very blatantly a completely different color. So how warm is warm? 21 degrees right now, but obviously in an office environment with no air conditioning, it does feel a lot hotter. So yeah, welcome everyone. If you're watching this on YouTube, whether you're watching this on Facebook, whether you're watching this on Twitch. Like I say, it's good to be back on Twitch. Hopefully, I haven't even checked if Twitch is coming through properly, but it looks like it is coming through absolutely perfectly on Twitch. I did find that we actually lost quite a few subscribers, or let's call them followers on Twitch. Subscribers, different thing. Yeah, we've lost about 2,000. So I'm guessing they've had some kind of big purge on there of things going on. But yeah, interesting to say the least. So yeah, welcome everyone. So for anyone who's never been on the on any of our live shows before, we're just going to go through kind of some of the latest news that's been going on in the pretty much in about the last week. The hot one being obviously leaked pricing on the new Intel Alder Lake CPUs. We are going to then, you know, go on to a few other different topics that I have gone through, and then we will, at the end of it, go through any super chats, any Q&As that you guys might have, and wrap things up. So yeah, I guess really we should get started, and I'm going to do it in the most appropriate way possible. Like I say, anyone who's ever been on one of these live streams before will know exactly what it's about, but we do have to give, I guess, you know, a little bit over to our sponsors. So I'm going to apologize in advance. I'm not saying this isn't not, it's not safe for work, but it's definitely bordering on it. So yeah, enjoy.
Andy, what are you watching?
It's not what you think.
Wow, it's so big.
Why, thank you. It's the new AOC AG493 UCX. 49 inches of pure performance and a refresh rate of 120 Hz. It's so fast. You can even do 2 at a time.
What?
You can connect 2 devices at a time and split the screen. With FreeSync Premium Pro, a 32:9 aspect ratio and a built-in KVM, you'll be finished in no time. Gaming, I mean. What did you think I mean? Get your mind out the gutter and click the link in the description to find out more. Not even sorry. I used to be sorry, but I'm not even sorry anymore. I'm really not. It's just one of them things now where, yeah, we always try and make, for anyone who doesn't know, we always try and make our adverts as humorous as possible. We've got some really interesting ones coming up that may or may not involve Snapchat filters of me looking like a kid, Arnold Schwarzenegger, and I'm just going to leave you with that image of me being a little kid and Arnold Schwarzenegger. It's going to be an interesting one. If anyone's ever got any ideas for pre-rolls and stuff, definitely let us know. We have got our Discord, so definitely head over to that. Link is in the description below. Great community to be a part of. Definitely, we have so much fun in there. It's just honestly a great place to be. And I've also just realized that I've got a thunderbug stuck in my screen, which is always fun. So if anyone's got any ideas on getting rid of thunderbugs without actually taking apart my whole screen, again, head over to Discord and let me know. Right, let's start talking about Alder Lake-S. So we all know that it's coming, and it seems like every single week we just get a snippet bit more of information where I guess nothing is official, but 9 times out of 10 when it comes with leaks, when it comes to rumors and things like that, you can normally look at it and you can generally get the idea of kind of what's going on. And the latest part of it is that a US retailer has leaked Intel Alder Lake-S CPU prices. So you may remember that a little while ago, probably last month now, there was talk of a retailer, which seemed like in Australia were actually leaking or accidentally putting up, I love it when they do that, accidentally on purpose, putting up pricing on Alder Lake-S CPUs. And we had to do all the conversions from Australian dollars over to, British pounds, euros, and of course, American dollars. And they were okay. They were kind of better than what we expected them to be. But this has just kind of, further instilled that the prices are actually ever so slightly better. So here is some of the prices that we've actually seen from this retailer, which I'm pretty happy with overall. I don't think it's too bad. Now, some people may be looking at this and thinking it's pretty high, which you got to remember for high-end parts, yeah, it is pretty high. But I've actually done some research into it today because we have to look at MSRP pricing, launch pricing, and not pricing of what we're trying to compare to when it comes to AMD and what that actually means now. So, the key important one is going to be the 12900K. Now, when we did all of our conversions and things like that, it came out about $689, which, okay, admittedly, it seemed a little bit high. But now, based on this kind of new pricing that has been leaked from a US retailer, it's looking closer to kind of 604. So you could potentially argue that this is going to be a $599 MSRP chip, which isn't too bad because when you look at it, this is going to be the flagship, the 12900K. You're talking, how are they doing it? Eight big cores, 8 little cores, 24 threads, I think it is in total, because obviously the big cores have the hyper-thread and the little cores will not. For anyone who doesn't understand what that is, it's all to do with the fact of, and Intel, they have done this before with the whole big core, little core architecture. It basically means that your little cores or the efficiency cores are going to be able to look after the smaller tasks, which I guess back in the day would have, come down to, Chrome and things like that. But, we all know the beast that has become now, that is probably actually going to be taken care of by the bigger cores. The bigger cores are going to be more for kind of, your huge workload stuff, while the little cores are able to do their own thing. And we discussed this last week, the fact that Windows 11 is going to be able to utilize the big core, little core, let's call it architecture, and the fact that they are going to be able to essentially assign affinity to them cores depending on the task that it's actually got in hand. So back in the day, when Windows, I think it was 7 was the first one to actually have affinity where you could manually set it in Task Manager. You can still do it now in Windows 10. Go and have a look, open up Task Manager, right click on a process, and you can, I believe, still set affinity. This is going to be more of kind of an automated way of doing it. So I don't know whether it's going to be AI based, which means that potentially it could take what it knows, potentially could use that as cloud-based, very much like automated cars. If it could do it like that, I think it's going to get a lot better, a lot quicker, say with DLSS and things like that. If it uses automation and uses essentially cloud computing from taking that pool of data from various different users, it could head in the right direction very fast. And that's obviously going to give Intel a much bigger upper hand over AMD. I mean, they're already going to have DDR5. They're already going to have PCI-Express 5. Doesn't mean every single Z690 board is going to have DDR5, by the way. And again, for anyone who wasn't here last week, we managed to kind of talk about the whole DDR4, DDR5 thing. So as far as I know, when it comes to, say, Gigabyte, they are going to have Gigabyte DDR4 boards. When it comes to Aorus, you're going to have the choice of DDR4 or DDR5. So there's going to be two different SKUs. I'm guessing Asus are going to do something similar, and probably MSI, maybe with their MPG series, maybe with the MEG. You'd like to think MAG is going to be, typical kind of DDR4, trying to keep the kind of cost down and things like that. So going back to obviously what we have here, talking about pricing, it's hard to sort of see what this is going to be. But obviously we do have to take into effect when we're looking at US pricing that there is going to be taxes as well. So depending on what state you are in the United States of America, you're going to have different tax rates, whether it be 8%, whether it be 9%, whether it be 10, all the way up to, I think it's like one state has like 16% tax or something. Still a lot lower than the UK. So taking a look at that same 1209K and implementing 10% tax, which is kind of a fair average based on, what we have across all the various different states, you're going to be looking at $665. Which I still don't think is too bad. When you look at the 5950X, which launched with an MSRP of $799. So this is already about $135 cheaper. And potentially based on kind of, leaked benchmarks and rumored benchmarks and things like that we've seen, the 12900K is definitely going to bring the fight to the 5950X. When we look at the 5900X, which is, let's call it a more consumer-friendly chip compared to the 5950X, then that launched for $549. And you could argue that the comparable chip there is going to be the 12600K at $464. So again, we're looking at about $100 difference. So these are the things that, we have to look at. We have to compare against MSRP pricing and not the pricing that's sort of here today, because AMD have already had their chips out for a while. So of course they are going to come down in value. They are going to be costing us less now than what they were. We did obviously have that inflated bit of pricing where prices of basically everything went up. We're still seeing that with GPUs. We are going to start seeing that even more. It's going to be more prevalent with the likes of cases and things like that. We've, spoke about that before. Cases are going to go up by $10, $20 just due to shipping costs more than anything. So it's going to be interesting if they do come out of these prices. You'd like to think with the screenshots and everything that we've got there that this should be the case. And obviously as we get closer to the time, which still rumored date, I have to say rumored because I know the real date, but I'm going to go with what kind of the rumor mill is saying of November the 17th to November the 19th. These are the rumored dates for Z690 and Alder Lake-S. I'm sure as we get ever closer to that, we are obviously going to hear a lot more in regards to it. Now, speaking of kind of other things that we have heard, the main thing is going to come down to, pricing is one thing, but what about performance? Come on, Andy, we want to hear about performance. We want to know what we're actually going to be getting when it comes to performance of the chip, performance of what the chipset allows us to do and what that brings. And of course, the key important thing, which I'd probably say is the most important thing in terms of an evolutionary jump and stuff like that, has got to come down to DDR5. DDR5 is going to be the next big thing. It's going to be the thing that Intel are going to be able to dangle in front of AMD's faces and say, we've got this for now. You guys haven't. So there's still many unanswered questions about DDR5 though. So what I want to share with you is there are some performance figures that have leaked online. The problem is when it comes to performance figures, what you see and what they actually mean are two kind of completely different things, especially when you don't have context and things like that. So I can show you these screenshots here, which is the CPU-Z built-in benchmark tool. And you can go, wow, this has some Chinese writing on there. It has some numbers. What does it actually tell us? I mean, in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't exactly tell us a lot, but we can see Firstly, the speed of Alder Lake, which is 4.6 gigahertz up here. So we have a multiplier of 46. We still have a B clock and FSB, whatever you want to call it in this day and age, of 100 megahertz. So this doesn't really tell us much as to what's going on. We don't even see the full name of the CPU. Instead, we see genuine Intel CPU 0000 at 3.2 gigahertz. So we can safely assume that this is either, firstly, an overclock speed of 4.6 gigahertz, or more than likely it is the boost speed of 4.6 gigahertz or turbo boost, one of the varying different Intel turbo boost technology, because obviously we have turbo boost max, turbo boost 3.0, single core, multi-core, and so forth. Now, the thing that does get interesting is when we can actually physically see some numbers and we can at least, I guess, put them into our own context of what we're able to do. So anyone can go out and they can download ADA64 and you can run this exact test, which will show you the read speeds, the write speeds, the copy speeds, and the latency speeds. These are the main ones, the top 4 that you want to be looking at. Now, we can see that they were running this on a 10-core processor, running again at 4.6 gigahertz, the original 3.2. It does say overclock, but as I say, it could just be the boost speed. And we can see the speed of the memory and everything as well. So we have DDR5 6400 running with what sound like the worst timings ever, but you have to remember DDR5 is a lot quicker than DDR4. There's still very little known about kind of DDR5 and what it actually translates to when it comes to the timings. I mean, 40-40-40-85, as far as we know, when it comes to DDR5, could be like stupidly tight timings. They could be stupidly just really bad loose timings. We just don't know at the moment. No one has really given us any indication. No one's given consumers any information. Everything's been kind of tight-lipped. Now, the thing that looks interesting to me is these speeds of 90,000 megabytes a second, 88,000 megabytes a second, 77,000 megabytes a second. They seem good. I mean, when you look at DDR4, even a high-spec memory kit and kind of the figures you get there, you're looking between 40 and 50,000 as it sort of, goes down. The latency, though, this is something that has, I think, alerted a lot of people where they're going 92.5 nanoseconds is pretty bad. Basically, the lower the latency, the better. That kind of defines, how quick things are. Now, generally speaking, again, on DDR4, you'd be looking at about half that, all the way up to kind of, 60 nanoseconds, depending on the platform that you're using. And you will see huge variance when it comes to AMD Ryzen, when you're looking at consumer chips from Intel, when you're looking at HEDT. There is obviously a lot of variance there. 92.5 just seems astronomical. But again, we have no context. We have no information to say whether 92.5 is like top tier when it comes to DDR5 or whether it means it's stupidly terrible, because we don't know the way that it works. We don't know the way that the memory controller actually reads the memory, all this kind of stuff. So there's still many unanswered questions here, but it's still interesting to kind of get the discussion going. And probably something we'll do after this live stream is I'll head over to Discord. Anyone who wants to talk about DDR5, because this is probably the highlight for me. The fact that Intel have released Z490, have released Z590, and basically we didn't really see anything new. We saw Gen 4, all right, AMD already had that, whoop-de-doo. But the fact that we saw nothing revolutionary, we saw nothing evolutionary in terms of a jump, like we did when Ryzen first came out, which gave us PCIe Gen 4 and things like that on X570. It was a huge jump. It was an architecture jump of moving down to 7 nanometer. Intel have kind of been stuck in the mud a little bit. So for me, DDR5 is going to be the key thing. So like I say, anyone who wants to head over to Discord, link in the description below. I will be sort of going through this, just, having a little chat about kind of DDR5, what we know so far. But what we do know is obviously that it is faster. The speeds are faster if you're talking about raw, unadulterated performance. It's just the nitty-gritty information that we just don't know yet. Now, one thing that we do know is that Alder Lake is going to be bigger in terms of the CPU and therefore consequently in terms of the socket. Or so they'd have you think. Now, this is actually something really interesting, because the whole point of obviously the socket for Alder Lake, or Alder Lake-S and Raptor Lake-S, and the fact that it has 1700 pins, as it's called, LGA 1700, as opposed to LGA 1200 and 1150X, 1151, 1150, whatever. So all of the last generations, it's actually really interesting to see that even though the socket looks bigger because the CPU is more rectangular than it is square, the CPU socket actually looks about the same size. Now, I don't know about you guys and sort of if you find this interesting, but to me, yeah, the CPU socket actually looks about the same sort of size. All you can really see is the socket cover, the metal part of it, has kind of been cut away at the bottom to reveal more pins. I would really, really like to see a shot of this without the kind of, brace that's been pulled over, just the bare socket to sort of see how it looks and get some measurements. But this is going to be quite interesting because just on the face of it, it does mean that you are going to be able to essentially use your own CPU cooler that you already have for LGA 1200. You are just going to need a slightly different mounting kit, which you'd like to think any decent manufacturer of coolers, whether it be an AIO, whether it be an air cooler, are going to, give us something so that we can carry on using our existing cooler. We all know that Noctua have already done this. So Noctua are kind of, good guy Noctua. But you'd like to think that other brands are definitely going to kind of jump on this bandwagon instead of having to go out and buy a whole new cooler again, because no one wants to do that, especially with some of the higher end coolers or, AIOs and things as well. They can be quite costly. Admittedly, they have actually come down in price. When I did the video on the Fractal Lumen, I couldn't believe the price of AIOs and how they've come down so dramatically. But even Noctua air coolers, they're not cheap. You're talking sort of 80, 90 pounds, dollars, euros, whatever. The fact that Noctua have confirmed they are giving out free mounting upgrades for LGA 1700. We've already been sent ours. We have 2 kits. So we're basically ready to test this as soon as, we get Z690, as soon as we get Alder Lake-S, we've got the kits ready to go. The one thing I didn't like is the kit that they've sent us, which is this, the NM-I17XX-MP83. The fact that the kit is silver in terms of the brackets, so the left bracket and the right bracket, the fact that they are silver, and I use a Chromax version of the D15S for all of our testing, it just kind of, infuriates me a little bit. But there is talk, as you can see here, of a Chromax black version, but it is looking like it's going to be November 2021. So at least for now, we do kind of have, an existing kit that is available, essentially very much like they did with, I think it was the AM2 to AM3, or was it AM3 plus to AM4, when they basically had the mounting kit that you could get free of charge, as long as you could prove that you had one of their coolers and you bought it and stuff like that. But fair play to Noctua. Be interesting to see what other brands do, whether they do kind of take this on and stuff. I'm seeing in the chat straight away, AdMods, who actually works for Thermaltake, they will be supplying LGA 1700 brackets for all of their coolers. So yeah, anyone who has a Thermaltake cooler of, let's say, the last couple of years, so it currently fits the current gen of stuff, you are going to obviously be able to then get hold of exactly what you need. Now, speaking of something that you are going to need, and we do this kind of generally halfway through, you need one of these, trust me. It kind of leads us on to the next sponsorship thing. I did actually, for anyone who missed it at the beginning, we did have the AOC video, but I want to talk about the eTeknix PC Maintenance Toolkit. I kid you not, it is the very best toolkit for the money that you can get. This is it. You get everything that you need to build, repair, and maintain your PC, including an Allen key, flexible bit. The screwdriver actually extends. It's all eTeknix branded as well. Comes in this nice little hard shell, and it's available on store.eteknix.com. You can head over to there. Link is in the description below and pick yours up. We are also, and I did say this last week, we have now got the eTeknix, Stealth Edition hats, baseball caps with the eTeknix logo on there in black. So we have got them available as well. And they are going to be on the store very, very soon. So I did say this at the beginning, that I wanted to talk about one subject, which I know would be a bit of a sore subject for some, and others maybe not so much, depending on kind of what side of the fence you actually sit on. And that is to talk about the Apple event, or kind of the lack of it. Now, I don't know if anyone saw, but the Apple event wasn't that great. Now, someone is asking to see the screwdriver. So there's the actual screwdriver itself. And you can actually hold the top while you spin it. It spins around, and it extends as well. So you have kind of different places where you can, which is especially handy for your motherboard standoffs and things like that, without kind of getting your hand in and ripping it to pieces. So yeah, it comes with Phillips bits, comes with Torx, comes with Star, comes with pretty much everything that you're going to need. So let's talk about Apple. I don't even know what they're doing anymore because they haven't really done anything. And this is the big thing for me. I'm an Apple user. I've got an iPhone 12 Pro Max, use it all the time. It's got an amazing camera, amazing features for what it is. I skipped the 11. The phone that I had before that was the XS Max, but I'm just kind of, I can't really defend Apple anymore because the iPhone 13 Pro was announced the other day and it's going to feature 1 terabyte of storage. It's going to feature slightly better battery. I mean, of course it is. Of course it's going to have a higher capacity and of course it's going to have a better battery life. It's just a really, really tricky one to defend now because kind of like Intel were doing with Z490 and Z590, there's just nothing I can really say, yeah, but Apple this, yeah, but Apple that. It's just nothing exciting. And I don't know whether it's just me, but I was always like, yeah, but look at this. Admittedly, there's some features that are kind of cool, like rack focus and things like that, which I guess as someone who does, videos and things like that, is kind of a cool thing to have. But that's kind of as far as it goes, really. There's nothing else that's making me go, do you know what? They've changed the design or they've changed this or they've changed that. It's just a really, really tricky thing to defend. And like I say, I get it. I know there's people who use iPhones and I know there's people who use Android, and we can get into the whole argument of Apple fanboys versus Android fanboys and things like that. But at least with, I guess, new Android phones, they are coming up with bold, I'd say, and brash kind of design decisions, with the likes of the Samsung Fold and things like that, going back to flip phones and stuff like that. It's just, okay, I'm not a massive fan of it, but at least they're trying to be innovative. At least they're trying to do something a little bit different. Whereas Apple, I get it, the whole if it's not broke, don't fix it thing. But is that enough in 2021 to just stick with the same design and just kind of, go on from there? The hard thing is, whatever Apple are doing is right. I know people who, because today was the day where you could actually go out and buy the phone, and the website, Apple's website, basically crashed because of it, froze, chucked people out of the checkout, all sorts like that. So whatever they're doing clearly is working. So maybe I've not really got any room to kind of comment, I guess. It's a tricky one. It really is. One thing I can comment on, though, is kind of going back to Intel, not so much on the CPU side, but on the GPU side. So for anyone who's been living under a rock, Intel are going to be making GPUs. So they are going to be bringing the fight to AMD and NVIDIA in the form of Intel DG2, which I've got to admit, the name, what do we think of the name? The name kind of sucks, right? DG2. It just doesn't sound great. Now, I don't know if it's just me, but I'm not feeling it. I kind of feel like it needs something more. And then they came out with Alchemist, and that's just even worse. And I can't even remember what the other ones were. There was Alchemist. There was a couple of other names. I want to say Necromancer, but it wasn't that. There was a couple of other names for these Intel GPUs that are going to be coming out. And it just, it's not great. I mean, this is obviously a render of what it could potentially look like, which kind of further instills that it is going to be on the lower end of the scale, which is fine. Absolutely fine. There's no problem with that because AMD and NVIDIA, as shown in this slide, don't really have anything to compete on the lower end of the scale. Now, when we're talking lower end, we're talking below $200. So that basically means from NVIDIA, we basically have a 1650 Super. And from AMD, there's nothing in the current stack. By the way, the travel mugs, I will have to get you the information on the capacity of them. Stick around till the end and I'll get that. So there's basically nothing to compete. So when you actually look at this slide here, we have got the SoC1 and the SoC2. I'm more excited about SoC2 because there is nothing to compete on that end of the scale. SoC1, it does look like they're targeting anywhere from the 6700 XT from AMD and the 3070 from NVIDIA. At least you'd hope from a performance standpoint. What it's going to mean for pricing is a completely different thing. But you'd like to think that with the SoC2, this could actually be the budget king. And it all seems to be lining up perfectly that we had a little bit more information. There was obviously Intel hosting their architecture day. And it seems like as we get closer towards the end of the year, we are going to hear a lot more information. And it seems to be that maybe things are going to line up for CES 2022. Whether that be a physical event, whether that be a digital event, it seems like the perfect place for it to happen. I don't even know if I'm going to be going because of obviously the pandemic and everything that's going on right now. But it seems like it could make sense that CES 2022 is where Intel unveil their first consumer grade GPU. And I know there's going to be people out there thinking, I don't want this. I'm NVIDIA till I die. I'm AMD till I die. But at the end of the day, whether you're an Intel fan, AMD fan, whoever you are a fan of, I'm sure for the most part, you're going to be the fan of getting the very, very best deal out there. And the thing is, if another player enters into the market, if that is obviously Intel, it's going to bring the fight to AMD and NVIDIA, and it is going to allow them to fight where it matters most, and that's going to come down to offering the very best performance for the very best value prospect. So I think that's going to be really important because that could essentially mean that the prices of GPUs come down. I mean, they're already artificially inflated because of everything that's going on. I'm talking down below their MSRPs, which I know is a bold thing to say, definitely, but it's I think the most interesting thing. And I have been sent over the code names that Intel have come up with. So we have Alchemist, which is obviously what we're talking about here with DG2. There's going to be Battle Mage, Celestial, and Druid. Now, I don't know which one is worse out of all them names, but I really don't want to tell someone that I have an Intel Battle Mage GPU or an Intel Druid GPU. It just doesn't sound great. Yeah, at least, AMD have Radeon. I get that. And they've had that for many, many years. It kind of makes sense. Radeon or Radeon, however you want to pronounce it. NVIDIA have obviously got GeForce. It's been around since the beginning. Maybe it's because it's new. I don't like change. No one really likes change, but it just sounds awful. I mean, there's got to be another name to it. These are the code names as well. So what are they actually going to be called? Obviously, with NVIDIA, we have RTX 3070, GeForce RTX 3070. Is this going to be like Intel Alchemist DG2 SoC2? Or like, what's it going to be called? Again, at this point, we just don't know enough information to kind of really, comment too much. But as I say, as we get closer towards the end of the year and the start of next year, we are going to start finding out a lot more information on that. Now, one thing we do know is that GPUs are pretty sucky to get at the moment. We did a whole video dedicated to this whole issue about GPUs and not being able to get hold of GPUs. But things are getting better, at least in the UK where I'm from. In other countries, I know it's not as great, but in the UK, things are getting better. Scan held an event the other day, Scan Computers, where they were actually getting GPUs into the hands of gamers for MSRP or as close to MSRP as physically possible. The problem is, it seems like the GPU manufacturers, whether that be AMD, whether that be NVIDIA, predominantly this seems like an NVIDIA thing, although there has been some stories about AMD and their AIB partners, that they're kind of rushing through to get these cards out as quickly as possible to consumers, that they end up with problems. And there's complaints about poor GPU quality control. Now, it all kind of started back in August with someone talking about their power color card, which basically had the thermal pad protective bits on there, still on there. They weren't removed. They were just on there. And someone was wondering why the temperatures of their GPU were a lot higher than what they were kind of anticipating. It was only when they took the card apart that they realized what had happened. And this is kind of based on Reddit and things like that. This seems like this is a bit of a growing trend at the moment, that thermal pads are missing, thermal pads are misaligned, thermal pads are just, over the GPU core. Again, thermal pads completely missing over the memory ICs. And memory, GDDR6 gets warm. And I'm talking, really, really warm. And then there's this. Now, at first glance, you might be wondering, what the hell is that? And you might be thinking, you know what that is, but it's not. It's a finger cot. So very much like when you go into a bank or a post office and they have like a thimble on their finger so that they can grip the notes a lot better. Same sort of thing, so that, it protects whatever they're dealing with, from grease on their fingers, they can pick things up better with it, all that kind of stuff. But either way, it's it shouldn't be happening. It's as simple as that. This should not be happening. And the problem that we've got, and I said this in the video that we made the other day, so definitely check it out. It's on the channel. That while this is happening, how are you going to know if your GPU is affected? Now, not everyone has the cojones or the minerals to take apart their GPU cooler and sort of see what's going on underneath. And this is kind of what brings us to this point of, so if you don't know, how are you going to know? Now, the easiest way to tell is obviously just to look at your temperatures. And this is where I said the community kind of needs to get a little bit more involved with everyone. And this is where the likes of our Discord server comes in. Again, I'm going to say the link is in the description below. Definitely go and check it out, because the more people that can get together, and the bigger pool of information that we can have, because information is key in this day and age, the more information that we can have to show what's going on, the better. Because I'm sure if you've got, I don't know, a 6700 XT Hellhound from Power Color, which was one of the cards that was affected, someone else has that card. So if you're saying, right, I want to know what temperatures are you getting on the exact same model as me, they're going, I'm getting 67 degrees. That's odd because I'm currently getting 80. That kind of tells you everything you need to know, that there is a problem with your card and that something needs addressing. The problem that you then have is you have a choice. Do you risk your warranty, which there are some brands who will obviously allow you to do it, like EVGA, but if not, do you risk your warranty by taking your card apart to have a little look? Or do you send your card back to the retailer if you find it out quick enough? Or do you send it off for RMA? But then you've got the fear of how quickly or how long is it going to take for you to get a card back? Whether it be your card fixed or whether it be a replacement card, how soon is that going to happen in this day and age? I can tell you now, it's not going to happen overnight. I think you're going to be waiting a while. So you're kind of in a situation where you are doomed no matter what you do. And that really sucks. I'm sorry, but it does. But I definitely suggest, if you have fears or reservations about your GPU and the potential that it is overheating and you think there might be something more untoward going on, then definitely you need to talk to someone. We need to pull this together. So yeah, that's where, like I said, the likes of our Discord come over and stuff like that. So next thing I want to talk about is this. I'm stupidly excited about this. So EK have unveiled a 1U compatible Threadripper CPU water block. Threadripper has gone a little bit quiet lately because obviously there is talk of the next generation of Threadripper coming in. But I don't know if it's just me, but that is a very, very, very good looking CPU block. And I don't know why, but as soon as I saw it, I just wanted to build a server. I don't even know what for yet. We'll probably end up making a video out of it. I need to speak to some companies and actually get the server equipment. But I want it. I don't know why I want it, but I do. So obviously it supports Threadripper. It is very, very low profile because it is 1U. And in all fairness, as far as CPU blocks go, and there is quite a lot of surface area on these blocks, 140 euros isn't too bad in the grand scheme of things. So I really, really like this. It's just a matter of, if I'm going to get one, what do I pair it with? And kind of more so than anything, why am I building a server in the first place? What do I need a server for? And why does it need to be water cooled? So if anyone's got any ideas, again, head on over to our Discord. We are in a process where, I guess, a situation at the moment where we are needing ideas for videos, because videos are getting more and more difficult on YouTube to try and bring you original content that you guys actually want to see. So we want to hear from you guys as to what you actually want to see, what you want to see us produce. I mean, we're currently working on this at the moment. X570S. What even is it? I've got 3 X570S motherboards here. And the funny thing is, there's not that much information out there about X570S. What is it? Is it even a new chipset? Is it all a lie? There's not enough information out there on X570S. So, yeah, we've got that. Maybe I'll end up making something that we can render videos on directly. That'd be pretty cool. Threadripper. We'd be able to connect in multiple computers, render, basically make a render farm. Could be interesting. Could be interesting. Now, the last thing I want to talk about is very, very interesting, but not for a good reason. Now, I don't know whether the Thermaltake rep is still in here. He was in here earlier in the live chat. But Thermaltake have unveiled the Tower 100 Mini in metallic gold. I want to prepare you for this because anyone who hasn't seen it, you might want to put sunglasses on. The fact that it's not even gold is the weirdest thing, but this is what it looks like. This is the Tower 100 gold. What are we thinking? I've got a black edition of this case and I've got a white edition of this case. And they look nice. Probably one of the nicest looking mini ITX cases out there on the market. It's really, really just, it ticks all the right boxes. It's a little bit big, I admit, for a mini ITX case in terms of the footprint, sort of, you know, width, depth, as well as the height. It's quite tall. It's quite a big, small form factor case. And there's quite a lot of kind of unusable room to a certain degree, but there has to be because of the way that the GPU is mounted and things like that. But it does look very, very nice in black and white. And then they brought out the turquoise one, and then they brought out the British Racing Green. I was like, come on, this is going a bit too far now. And now they have metallic gold, but it's not metallic gold. It shouldn't. In these pictures, it looks metallic. It looks orange. I've been told that it is actually gold looking, but yeah. What do we think? What do we think? I mean, there's one market where I can see this happening and doing well. Dubai, Abu Dhabi, kind of, you know, the Middle East and places like that. Everywhere else, the Western market, I don't see it being feasible at all. Don't see it being feasible at all. So that's it really for, I guess, the topics of today. Let's do a little bit of Q&A. If there's any super chats and stuff, we will go through them as well. So yeah, if you do want to support us in what we do, whether it be through the live streams, whether it be the videos and all the other good stuff that we do, you can do super chats by pressing the little button just below the chat, or you can press the join button and become a member of our YouTube channel. You can also support us on patreon.com/eTeknix, where you get exclusive behind the scenes content. We're doing Patreon meetups as well. We did one last week. We have got some content going out on that as well. We've got another one coming up in May. 5 people actually came to the, well, about 12 people came to the E-Technics offices. 5 of them walked away with 2 terabyte NVMe drives from Seagate with a FireCuda 510. So we also have exclusive game nights as well every 2 weeks where you can win prizes like Steam credit, Amazon credit, or some amazing prizes like the eTeknix toolkit, CPU coolers, all sorts of weird and wonderful stuff. So yeah, they're basically all the different ways of supporting us. Welshy Tech, thank you very much for the super chat, dude. Always appreciated. So let's get started with some Q&A and stuff as well. Does Alder Lake support Optane acceleration modules? So we haven't actually heard anything about kind of support or anything like that. We know that obviously there's going to be a huge amount of PCI-Express lanes. We know that it is going to operate, you know, with big little core architecture. That's about it. Most of that comes from rumors and leaks and things like that. Nothing official has even come out just yet. So it's going to be interesting to see kind of what happens between now and the launch date as to what information we do get. Optane is a weird one because is Optane even needed anymore in the grand scheme of things? Do we still need Optane? To me, Optane was always a thing that allowed us to bridge that gap between hard drive SSD and sort of for people who were on older architecture and older technology, they could then get something that kind of propelled their performance for not very much money. Because when you think about Optane and things like that, it was obviously very cheap because the capacity of them was, you know, relatively quite small. We were talking like 16 gig, 32 gig and things like that. So that was kind of the whole point of Optane. It was a cheap yet efficient upgrade. If you're looking at moving to a platform that has DDR5, PCI-Express Gen 5, 8 big cores, 8 little cores, 24 threads, I don't think you need Optane. I think you're past Optane. And that's what I think is going to happen with that. Thank you very much for the super chat. You mean like this? Hello from South Australia. Got my Sabrent Rocket 4 Plus installed in my PS5. What capacity did you go for? 1 terabyte, 2? I think they do up to 4 on that one now. I am so eagerly looking for the 16 terabyte drives that are due to come out. And it seems like Sabrent might be the first ones to come out with it in conjunction with Phison with the, I believe it's going to be the E19 controller, but 16 terabytes of NVMe. I mean, Matt is over there editing videos, and I'm sure he would love a 16 terabyte NVMe drive. I'm getting a thumbs up. So could you imagine that though? 16 terabytes. Okay, so you got a 1 terabyte drive, which is more than enough for most people who are, enthusiast gamers and all that kind of stuff. So it's going to be interesting to see kind of what happens with drives, especially the fact that a lot of boards coming out now, and you may have seen the EK MSI board that I looked at a little while ago, like a week ago. There was 4 NVMe PCI-Express 4.0 slots on there. I mean, that's just crazy. It's just kind of the way that the market's going. But do we need 4 slots when we could just get 1 drive that does it all? It's an interesting one, to say the least. So I'm just putting the link in the chat for our Discord. So there is a link to the eTeknix official Discord. Definitely head over to there, and we can carry on this whole conversation over there about DDR5, about Alder Lake, about kind of all sorts. Travel mug capacity. Looking for a bigger one. I need to find a travel mug. Matt, can you find me a travel mug? I think there'd be one down there. The little ones. Are we talking the little ones or the thermos? I'm guessing we're not talking the thermos, are we? This is the eTeknix Smart Thermos, which is actually really cool because you can tap the top and it tells you the temperature, if I turn it out the right way, of the liquid inside. I mean, come on, how cool is that? So 25 degrees of stuff in there right now. But I'm guessing you're talking about the little one. It'll be down there, Matt. Just down there in a little orange and white box. So yeah, we are getting that so we can have a little look. Let me grab one of them. Oh, is it so? Happy days. So I'm guessing you're talking about these ones. So here's the one in white. You get the little stirrer as well. So these are 330 mil. There you go. It's got the little the rubber and everything on there as well. Nice eTeknix logo on there. Comes in black or white. So yeah, same size as a normal coffee mug. Yeah. What else have we got? Do you think the 12900K will be good for gaming? I think it'll be extremely good for gaming, especially the fact of Intel have always had the upper hand when it comes to gaming. It's only that AMD caught up with the Ryzen 5000 series, and especially when they had the ability to enable smart access memory, which is AMD's version of resizable bar, basically, which is what NVIDIA have bought. There is talk that Intel are going to have their own version of this, especially when they release their new GPUs and stuff as well. So I think Intel, obviously always being the one who AMD have been chasing when it comes to sort of gaming performance, I think with the addition of the whole big core, little core thing, 8 big cores, 8 little cores, 24 threads, I think that is going to help Intel tremendously. And I think especially with Windows 11 having that, let's call it core priority or core prioritization of affinity in the way that Windows assigns them cores, I think that's going to be huge. And that is going to give Intel the upper hand again in terms of gaming. So I think AMD should be worried. That's all I'm going to say. And for Intel, the only thing I'm really going to say is it's about bloody time. Please don't let us down. Like I say, I'm not an Intel fanboy. I'm running an AMD processor at the moment in here. I'm running AMD at home. I was running Intel in my office until a couple of weeks ago, until I had a sensor error where it was reading my chipset as like 147 degrees. So I'm a fan of whatever is the best value for money. And that doesn't mean the cheapest. It doesn't mean the most. It means getting the very best bang for buck for your money. So it's going to be interesting. Do I think big cores will only be used for gaming, or do I think the E-cores will help out? So I do think the E-cores will help out as well. I think mainly from like a physics side of things, I think they could actually come in handy if it could kind of essentially spread that workload across different smaller cores. I think that's going to be really, really interesting to see what happens. Will the AMD compacted chiplets change the landscape? Again, there's not enough information to talk about AM5 and kind of what's coming from AMD. You'd like to think that they've invested so much R&D and so much development into their design and the way that they do things with chiplets and things like that. I can't see them dramatically changing it. I think they're going to improve upon it, as we've seen in every single generation. Maybe alter it slightly, but I don't think there's going to be like a huge change. Unless Intel absolutely decimate them and make them have to change, if that makes sense. I think that's kind of where we are. Again, too early to say with RTX 40 series and if it's going to support PCI-Express Gen 5. You'd like to think so. Obviously, if Intel are coming out with boards and chips that support PCI-Express Gen 5, obviously, there has to be something to come along with that, which we don't even know. Maybe, just maybe, there's going to be the Intel GPUs are going to have PCI-Express Gen 5 support. It's really too early to say. And with that, I'm going to call it there, guys. Thank you, everyone, for tuning into the weekly live show. It's been a pleasure, as always. Hopefully, you got your little fix of kind of, knowing what's going on right now, keeping you up to speed with stuff without having to trawl through tons of information on the internet. You can just come on here, have a good chat, chill out, and find out all the information that you need in about an hour's time. So, yeah, all good. Like I said, we've got lots of video content coming up next week as well. So if you're not subscribed, make sure you do. And before you leave, make sure you give us a thumbs up. And like I say, if you want to support us, you can do so using the links in the description below over at store.eteknix.com, as well as Patreon as well. Like I said, there's so many benefits to Patreon, and it starts at $1 a month. So what's not to love? And like I say, head over to our Discord. I'm going to be on there now, just chatting away and stuff. So definitely worth heading over to. Thank you, everyone. And hopefully you have a good weekend. And I will see you in the next one. See you later, guys. Bye-bye.